All right. I'd like to call this meeting of the Lakota Board of Education to order. Jenny, will you please call the roll?
Mrs. Casper?
Here.
Mr. Lovell?
Here.
Mrs. O'Connor?
Here.
Mrs. Schaefer?
Here. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Do I have a motion to approve the agenda? Second.
Second. Oh, that's loud.
Discussion. Jenny, will you please call the roll?
Mrs. O'Connor?
Yes.
Mrs. Casper?
Yes.
Mr. Lovell?
Yes.
Mrs. Schaefer?
Yes. I don't have any comments this evening. We'll move to superintendent's comments.
Just really quick message. I want to thank Mr. Passarge and his crew as they battle the winter months. Whoa. Sorry. As they battle the winter months like the rest of us, not only deciding whether or not we should close, but just getting parking lots ready, sidewalks ready, and it takes a lot of effort, especially in the weary hours of the morning. So when we can, I want to thank them. So that was it.
All right. Mrs. Logan, do you have any comments?
I do. Recently, actually Friday, I received an unannounced visit from a representative of the Auditor of State's office. Anytime you get an unannounced visit from the Auditor of State's office, it worries you. But this was a good visit. We actually received an award, and so I'm just going to kind of read to you a little bit about what it is. Congratulations. Based upon your recently completed financial audit, it gives me great pleasure to inform you that the Lakota Local School District has received the Auditor of State Award with distinction. Clean and accurate record keeping are the foundation for good government, and the taxpayers can take pride in your commitment to accountability. The Auditor of State Award with distinction is given to those entities that file an annual CAFR, Comprehensive Annual Financial Report, and timely financial reports in accordance with GAAP, as well as receive a clean audit report. The clean audit report means that your financial audit did not contain findings for recovery, material citations, material weaknesses, significant deficiencies, single audit findings, or questioned cost. So just wanted to share that with you.
Great news.
So we got a really nice framed. So it's very nice. Thank you. And of course, my name is on here as the treasurer, but it is not me. It is, lots of people who make this happen. And so, I accept this on behalf of the district, and I just wanted to share.
That's good.
So,
Nice.
Thank you.
I'd like to thank you and your team, and I think this has been an award that you and your team have received for multiple years.
It is. It is.
Congratulations for continuing that trend of excellent work in your department.
Thank you. Thank you. And that's it.
We have the student spotlight.
Good evening, Madam President, members of the board, Mr. Miller, and Mrs. Logan. Tonight's Student Spotlight will tell a story of paying it forward. If you ask Aaron Parker, they're here, he's a senior at Lakota West High School, and he'll tell you that his mom is his biggest influence. He will also tell you that it's because of her that he asks himself, how can I help someone else? Aaron approached his principal, Mr. Card, with an idea that became Buckets of Blessings. Tonight, Aaron and his friends, Nufra and Betty, and Antonio Alejandro are here to share their experience of collecting items and money to create buckets of blessings for people who are less fortunate. I'm also really hoping that they're going to share with you that they headed over the Rhine at 6 a.m. on Christmas Eve morning to deliver the buckets of blessings. Thank you to their families and Mr. Card for supporting these incredible students this evening. Please welcome Aaron, Nev, and AJ.
Hello everyone, thank you for coming out tonight. Thank you to the Lakota West District and all the board members for allowing us to come out tonight. So where I would like to start tonight, I would first just like to talk about why I decided to create Buckets of Blessings. So for me, one of my biggest influences, as was just said, was my mother, because my mother always shared with me that regardless of the situation that I'm in currently in my life, or regardless of what's happening around me, or regardless of what I have, I can always share something to pass on to other people, whether it can be something that is important and big, or just something as small as giving someone a piece of advice that could influence their day and make their day better. So that was the main influence that caused for me to know that I wanted to do something to give back to the people around me, because I am a firm believer in when you give back to those around you, that you can receive just as much as you gave back. So I for a long time tried to find a way that I could give back, but I wasn't exactly sure. So I had all these different crazy ideas in my head, and I knew that because where I moved from northeastern Ohio, and we didn't have a lot of, I lived in a really small city, and we didn't have a lot of homeless people that you saw visible. And when we moved to Cincinnati, like going down like over the Rhine, it was a big change. Actually seeing people out on the streets, and like during the winter months it's cold, and they don't have proper clothing or proper items to survive throughout the winter. So I had an idea that I wanted to do something along with that, but I just didn't know how to get it executed. So in between my junior and senior year, over the summer, I told myself I'm going to find a way to get this done and actually commit to doing it. I just didn't know how. So when I started back at school, I brought the idea to Mr. Card, and I figured if I brought it to the school that could be a big way to help get it spread out to other people and help for it to just prosper. So I brought it to Mr. Card. He was completely supportive of it, and we talked about ideas and how we could get this rolling. So we came up with the idea of we took multiple two tables, and we took some bins, and we put throughout on the tables we put 3 bins. There was a bin for hygiene, there was a bin for blankets, and there was a bin for clothing items. And we set those out, and I posted posters all around the school. And I also did some stuff on social media. I made an Instagram page, distributed it there, and tried to share it with all my teachers and have it spread around to everyone else. And at first, the process was really slow, because I was kind of thinking, is anyone going to donate? Because the first 2 weeks, there was nothing. There was maybe a blanket that was extremely small in there, and I'm like, all right, I don't know if this is working. But I just kind of persevered and kept faith that people are going to come around and help me out, because they see that I'm doing something good and I really want to do this. So I figured other people would help me out. So I collected the items for around 6 weeks, and around the first month I really didn't get that much. But then the last 2 weeks before winter break, the buckets just completely filled up. I remember I went in the office one day, and all of the blanket bucket completely filled. There was clothing in the clothing bucket completely, and the hygiene bucket was completely overloaded, over flooding with items. And I think the people that had a big part to do with that were actually the Lakota members, especially the teachers. For example, my math teacher, Mrs. Gadoff, her daughter works for a company that makes they make travel size products, and she told them what I was doing, and they said they were interested in donating 100 of those products. So they just donated 100 of their products of each one's, and I got those, and they put them in the basket. And then also there were a couple of churches, local churches, New Life Chapel. They heard what I was doing, and they knitted 50 handmade scarves, and they dropped them off at the school just for what I was doing. So I ended up getting more than I expected and more than I needed, and it helped out tremendously in the whole process. So once we took all the items and we got it was the last day before break, I loaded all the items into my car and I took them home, and that whole week, that's when my family and we started to put the bags together. So we ordered some, they were reusable grocery bags off of Amazon, and from Amazon, once we got them, we put all the hygiene products in a small Ziploc bag, and then we put a blanket in each bag, and then we put a hygiene packet in each bag, and then we also put a scarf gloves, hand warmers, but we didn't have equal amounts of each. So I try to distribute them evenly. And I also raised money, and I didn't plan on raising money in school, but I had like these 2 buckets on the table just to look nice, because it was called Buckets of Blessings, and people were putting money in them. So I just said, okay. So I accepted the money, and I also started GoFundMe. And through GoFundMe, we raised $85, which my goal was around $200, but the 85 definitely helped a lot. So with that money, I went out to a couple of the local stores. I went out to Walmart, went out to Target, went out to a lot of the Dollar Trees and Dollar Generals, and we bought up a lot of the hats, a lot of the other hygiene products there, and then my family and I, we made the bags. And so the day before we went to a homeless shelter that night, we were preparing the bags and everything, and we got them all lined up. And then that morning, we woke up at 6 o'clock, and Nav and AJ, they met me at my house, and they helped me load my car, and we drove down there, 6 o'clock in the morning, and we went to Prince of Peace Church in Over the Rhine. And I think it's funny because at first I really struggled finding a place to hold the whole event, because a lot of the places I emailed, a lot of them told me that like they would be willing to help me, but they were saying like I can only drop the stuff off, like I wouldn't be able to help. Like I just give them the stuff, they'll distribute it over time, and that's not really what I plan on doing. So for the longest time, I had no clue where I was doing this at, but I just kind of said, if we can't find a place, we're just going to go out to like downtown, look for people and hand them out, which isn't the most safe thing, but I wanted to get them out regardless. But and here's another instance of where the Lakota school members helped me out, because my gym teacher, Mrs. Cornell, she heard about what I was doing, and she asked me if I had a place to do it at, and I told her I haven't found a place. And she told me that she knew a pastor in Over the Rhine, and it was from Prince of Peace Church, and she knew him through a former student, and that she was almost sure that he would allow me to distribute the items there. So I emailed him, and he was completely fine with it. And he emailed me back almost I think about 30 minutes later, and he was completely supportive with it. So once we got down there, he helped us bring some of the stuff in, and they were actually having a breakfast meal at the time. So there was a different group of people. They were distributing breakfast, and then while they distributed the breakfast, after that, we set up our table and passed out the care packages. And it's just an overall great experience. I mean, I'm not gonna say it was perfect, but it was interesting, and I think it was really eye-opening, especially for me, being able to see that a lot of the things that people take for granted in their daily life, for example, having a nice blanket to sleep with, that some of these people were so happy and excited to have the things that we take for granted. And I'm not going to say everyone was happy and excited. A lot of people, they just were kind of like, okay, this doesn't matter. But a lot of people, it was more for me towards the people that I felt like I affected in a positive way. And so yeah, we helped around the first hour, we helped distribute all the food. So they were serving pancakes, grits, eggs, and a lot of different breakfast meals. So they just kind of took us in the back. They had my little brother who was making pancakes. I was carrying around grits. They were also carrying around grits, and that part was extremely crazy because a lot of people were extremely hungry. So we're walking around with trays of food, and a lot of people are like shouting at you, grabbing you, like, "I want food." So it was kind of like, at first I was kind of scared because I was like, I've never done this before. But once we started doing the care packages, then a lot of the people, they seemed to calm down. And we went through the care packages extremely fast. I only had 50 total because that's the amount of bags that I had. But then I didn't think I needed clothes donations, but from school, a lot of people just donated clothes randomly. I didn't put that on the list, but I figured I could still use it. And the pastor actually asked me, do you have any clothes? Do you have any shoes or clothes? Because there was actually a man who his shoes were completely torn up and he needed new shoes. And from the shoes that I got from school, I was able to give him a new pair of shoes. And we got rid of all the clothes. We got rid of all the shoes except one pair. And there were people that were still asking for more stuff. We just didn't have enough. So it was amazing to see that all the stuff that we got from school, all the stuff we got from everyone's money and the donations went to use. And that it was utilized in a positive way. So the one thing I wanted to do was I wanted to bring up Nav and AJ so they could talk about what was their favorite experience of that whole day and what they learned from it. So let's invite them up.
Good evening, board members. My name is Nev Karen Betty. I just want to start by saying thank you guys for allowing us to be here and speak, and thank you, Aaron, for allowing me to be a small part of this bigger mission. My favorite part about this experience was realizing how a small gesture can mean so much and bring a smile to so many faces. It only took a few hours out of my morning for me to go downtown, but it was such an amazing time just talking to people and seeing them smile and like being able to do something. I've had the opportunity to volunteer at a shelter a few times in the past, and every time I go, it's always so eye-opening, and it makes me realize how blessed I truly am. And this experience has reinforced the importance of giving back and the value of these small gestures and how they can change everyone's lives for the better, and it's definitely helped me and changed mine.
Good evening. I'd like to first thank the board and Aaron and Mr. Card for giving me this opportunity to come up here and give my take and be a part of this amazing thing that Aaron completely put together. My most favorite part of the whole experience was just being there and being able to be a part of something bigger than whatever I was. I've never had any sort of financial difficulty growing up. I've never been worried about whether I'm going to have food on the table, whether I'm going to have clothes to wear, or be warm going to bed. But my parents actually instilled me from very young that I should always be giving out. I should always help people in whatever way I can. And being a part of this experience and giving what I can, it's absolutely amazing, and I loved every minute of it. Being in a new place and doing what I can to give back to people who, honestly, people who've been on worse downfall or such like that, and just, just being able to see the positive influence in people and really making me a better person in my life through these other people and these new people that I met through my life, influencing my character to build me up, such as Aaron, and this whole opportunity of his drive and the motivation that he had behind this to make this happen, and the school board behind him. I thought it was absolutely amazing. Thank you.
So one thing that I was not sure about when I created the whole idea of Bugs and Blessings was I didn't want to, well, I knew I had to call it something because I just couldn't have it, like I'm just doing charitable work. I wanted to call it something for it. And I didn't know what I wanted to call it because I realized that there's a lot of organizations and a lot of people that are doing charitable work, and it's directed towards one group of people or one type, a certain group of people. But I personally enjoy trying to give back to all groups of people and anyone that I could possibly help. So I wanted to do something that was so diverse in a way that it didn't just sound like when you heard it, oh, this is for this group of people. So that's why I came up with Bugs and Blessings. And one of my further ideas was, so first I wanted to start with the care packages for the needy downtown. But then I had the idea of during the summer, there's a lot of kids who can't afford school supplies, and their parents struggle to even get them the basic necessities of what they need to get an education in school. So instead of giving out care packages to the homeless over the summer, I would like to do that with book bags and fill those book bags with the school supplies for the school list in the districts. So I haven't exactly planned on all the details, but I wanted to get started earlier, so I wasn't in a rush for time, kind of like what happened with the earlier one. But that's the goal, to this summer help out a lot of the kids in the Lakota district with getting their school supplies and backpacks.
Well, listening to your kind of story and how you went about this, there's no doubt that would be a success as well. You said at one point in there that you wanted to give back to the community. Can you talk a little bit about that? And then also, what are some of the things that you hope to accomplish with this?
So one thing that I was not sure about when I created the whole idea of Bugs and Blessings was I didn't want to, well, I knew I had to call it something because I just couldn't have it, like I'm just doing charitable work. I wanted to call it something for it. And one of my further ideas was, so first I wanted to start with the
you ended up getting more than you expected. And even though you were talking about blankets and probably supplies and things like that, just hearing what you said and what you all have said, I'm assuming that you've probably learned a lot more out of this entire process than you expected as well.
Yes.
Whether it's relationships, people you're in contact with. And what I love the most about it personally is that you're going to learn incredible things in school. You're going to learn incredible tools for your future. These are the things, though, that really going to stick with you as well. And so just, I'm thrilled to death. I love hearing it. It's awesome what you're doing, and great job.
Thank you.
Congratulations to you, too.
All three of you are seniors?
Myself and Nav are senior, and then Asia is a sophomore.
So they're going to hand this off to you? Because one of the things would be replicating it. I mean, that was one of the questions I had, but when you talked about the book bags, I love that idea.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm imagining that the two of you are going to be moving on, right? You still have
Yeah.
a connection here,
Exactly.
but just curious about that.
Yeah, that's the plan. I didn't want to just like, and that's why I said my senior year, because I talked about doing it in my junior year, but I didn't really do it. And that's why I said senior year, I have to get it done, because it's something that I would like to see continuously going on. And I definitely think through a way, for example, knowing someone who is younger than me, and also like Mr. Clark being the principal in a way, even though I'm not there and I won't be there all the time, it can still be happening and going and building, and we continue to help as many people as we can
That's
each and
awesome.
every year.
Well done.
Every time we do one of these student spotlights, I'm incredibly impressed because I know that this is going on in other places in our district with other kids, but I'm always so impressed because, you know, you guys get a bad rap sometimes, you know, the youth of today, and I'm always so incredibly impressed by what you guys take on, and, you know, the parents have to play into this. I realize they did it all themselves, but you laid the foundation and the groundwork, so kudos to you as well.
Erin, thank you for sharing the start of your journey with us of giving back to your community. This is really neat, and proud of the work that you've done. And I think you have two amazing friends to let you drag them along on this journey, too. So I think you're really fortunate to have that kind of support and the support at home, too. And I have found over and over again that our community is incredibly generous when they know there's a need. And it sounds like they responded to you really nicely. So I'm really happy to hear that, too. Thanks for the work you all did.
Thank you.
Do you know what next year is going to look like for you?
Well, actually, next year I'm taking a gap year, and I'm going to travel. So.
Nice.
All right, well, we're going to come up front and we'll take a picture with all of you if we can.
Like this? This is what I like. This is what I like here. Oh, all right.
Yes.
This is your time. You can escape. Yeah, you don't have to. You don't have to stay.
Go do your homework. Go do your homework.
Yeah, we know homework is the first thought on your mind. So.
That's right.
We are now going to move to our presentation on the program of studies.
Mr. Coney.
We've always talked about never follow up somebody better than you.
Yeah.
Not tonight.
No buckets of blessings here. Mr. Miller, Mrs. Logan, members of the Board of Education, thank you for the opportunity to talk tonight. As you know, annually you approve the program of studies for the junior schools and the high schools, and this is no exception. Earlier this year, I forwarded to you sort of a summary of changes to those. I wanted to highlight some of those, give you an opportunity for any questions you might have. I think an overall theme for the program of studies for the 2018-2019 school year are opportunities for students, especially grades 7 and 8, and then some small changes at the high school level and more of a full-scale assessment for the following year. We'll start with the high school. The comprehensive review that we will go through for sort of beginning now to be able to implement that in 19 and 20 is currently underway. But the changes that you see here to the program of studies sort of broaden out and fill out some of our pathways programs that we've had previously. AP Studio Art is being added in there to fill out most of our AP offerings. We have the majority of the AP offerings that the College Board offers currently, and this brings our total to 21 courses for that. And there are also some completing of Butler Tech pathways. The engineering, biomedical, IT, and sports medicine pathways are all completed. The IT pathway adds 2 new courses to that, the mobile apps and the game design, which are what they tell us are very favorite courses among kids these days, obviously. The sports medicine pathway is completed at Lakota West, and the engineering capstone at West, which was run as a pilot this current year, and it's going very well. There is also a few courses that we're in the process of exploring. One is the next level course for those students who have completed AB and BC calculus, either calculus 3 or multivariable calculus. And we are currently in the process of planning that. It's a small group of students, but it is a very talented group of students for which we'd like to be able to provide an opportunity for. And so we're working with some other partners out there to make sure it's the right offering for those students. We're also continuing to try and offer as many CCP courses as possible. Ideally, we'd like to have those on our own campus so that students don't have to travel someplace else. The challenge with that is finding the current staff members who are either adjuncted currently or interested in pursuing that. There's coursework that's necessary to be able to provide that. So that is the hiccup in providing that CCP course at that level. So those are the substantial changes to the high school program studies. As I said, much of that is the same as it has been, and we're meeting currently with the high school administration, sort of plan out what that looks like when we ideally, as you know, there's a lot going on in K-6 right now, and some of those changes are great for kids and require some work right now. We're looking at turning that lens on the 7-12 world for next year to say what that looks like, especially as we go on to 1-to-1 for next year in the junior high school, what opportunities that might provide for all of our students. At the junior high school level, our goal was to provide more choice for students. And so the 6-period day and the limitations of some of the offerings at the junior high school are things that were challenges for us. And so we've moved toward true electives. So rather than pigeoning kids into saying that you have to take this course or this course, you can choose from one of these two as long as you do not have some intervention period or something else that is in your day. Try to open it up to more true electives. So what you see there are sort of the evolution of Infotech. Infotech has been a course that's been around for a number of years, and it's time to take that next step in that. And so we are designing 2 courses to fill that need. One is Digital Innovation, which is a semester course, and the other is Digital Ideas and Discoveries. The Digital Innovation is sort of the bridge from the STEAM labs that you experience in the elementary schools to more of the computer science classes in the high school. And then that next level course would be Digital Ideas and Discoveries, which is that computational thinking, the web design, the gaming, programming. So we're developing those courses now to be able to roll it out in the fall. The other course that's being added as an elective, which will be open to 7th and 8th graders, is Media Design and Communication. And so that course, I think, has a lot of interest for kids at that age. So it is blogging, it is video design, it is audio, it is any kind of natural communication that the kids have currently. So those are courses that we are excited about implementing. We're also having, as we move to electives, PE, health become electives. And so we know that that will have implications down the road into what's offered at the high school level, what might be offered in summer school for PE offerings. But truly, if we want kids to find their passion and find a pathway, having choice in electives for those 7th and 8th graders is really important. And the last piece of all of this is sort of our move toward more internships and capstone projects for seniors. And we have cemented another partnership with AC Hotels for a hotel management internship. And then we've sort of made a little different move this year to try and see if there are some internal internships that we can work on. So the Treasury Department and the Communications Department and our department have sponsored internships that we can open up to have kids come over and learn about public finance, media and communications, or school leadership. So I think those are neat opportunities for us to work more directly with kids. I think everybody here at Central Office craves more time with kids, and I think that is a neat opportunity to be able to do that. So that's a summary of the changes that you'll see in the program of studies for both of those levels of courses. Happy to entertain any questions you might have.
Keith, I'm very excited to see more internships coming. That's wonderful. A couple of questions. How many staff do we actually have at adjunct status at this point?
I would say, I think we're at like 5 or 6 from my last conversation. I don't know, it's not a hard fast number. I believe it's in that ballpark. That's from a meeting that we had a few weeks ago.
So if we were going to meet the needs for the district, how many would that need to be?
Many more than that. So, right. So we've talked about having sort of a strategic plan for supporting the work of our teachers to be able to get to that adjunct status. It benefits us, so students can stay on campus, and it's also more cost effective for us as a district since we have to pay for that tuition for those students to go off campus. So that's part of our planning on what does that look like. But there is a good number of courses that those teachers have to take. So I don't have those exact numbers. I'm happy to get those for you, though.
Okay, I think it's a great route to pursue. And of the junior high programs that you're talking about, are any of those Butler Tech or are those in-house?
Those are all in-house.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yep. There are still Butler Tech courses at the junior high schools, but those courses we're adding are
But these are ours. Okay, thank you.
With the infotech going away, will actual typing be taught then at the elementary level?
Yeah, so that's
Keyboard.
part of that.
Yeah.
So part of that change is what does that elementary tech specialty look like? And obviously some of those skills will roll to the elementary school. I also think that the implementation of one-to-one, as students have more accessibility to that in class, trying to embed that within the coursework and in the content there, and rather than a strict typing program, gives us an opportunity to practice those skills. So that's part of the issue is that you can learn them in 3rd, 4th, 5th grade, but if you're not practicing them on a daily basis, you can lose that. There's a good bit of research anymore that is showing that that touch typing skill is not as pervasive as we thought it was. That there, I know you can go back and forth on that, but we've seen some of that research out there. So.
I don't have a question, but a comment that I'm glad to see that we're pushing more of an elective platform. That's great, giving kids more choice.
Especially as they get to that age, it's really important.
Absolutely.
I love the internal internships here. I think that's awesome.
Yeah, I think they'll be slow to get going a little bit, but I think once kids start to see those and experience that, we'll be excited to see how that goes.
Yeah.
We don't have quite the panache that P&G.
Exactly.
Exactly. We're going to work with an award winning.
But they don't have that.
That's right. That's right, they have a plaque.
Pressure.
Well, hopefully we'll get a few of them back then, Lakota graduates coming back as employees too. That would be wonderful.
That would be the goal.
I think adding that AP Studio Art's going to be a big, very well received. That's been a big need and desire. I've heard a lot of demand for that. So
Sure.
I think that'll be well received.
Yeah, we have a well-rounded art program, but it does cap out at a certain level. It's good to have that.
So we hear a lot about offerings at East versus West and both sides of the district being balanced. What are all offerings offered on both sides of campus? Because that's a question we often get.
All current offerings. So Some of the Butler Tech courses that you see, those were things that are now at both campuses. We've been able to balance those out. That's part of the planning process that we've got. I think we're still a little unbalanced in a couple of spots, but the goal is, as we reimagine what that high school experience can be, that it is equitable across East and West, and also equitable for any student who comes into school who has opportunities to be able to achieve whatever they can. So I think we're closer with this. We're not 100%, but I think that's part of our planning process we've got underway also.
And then with the Zero Bell offering, are we gearing up to be able to offer, I know that's been somewhat of a lottery in the past for kids who want to get into the Zero Bell for sophomores and juniors. How does that look, or do we
Expanding
not know yet
capacity.
for capacity as far as how many kids are signing up this year versus our ability to serve those kids who sign up?
So we are status quo on the way that we operate with Zero Bell for next year. We will get our simple tallies back here shortly and be able to start figuring out what those numbers look like. But I think as we step back and look at the whole big picture, I think that concept of Zero Bell is something that we want to explore, and some more flexibility for all of our students and what our school day looks like. So I think it's a short-term fix for what that is, but I think there's a larger issue that we've got to address there also.
But for next year, is our goal to serve anybody who signs up, or will it still just be first come, first serve?
Goal-
or
Our current operation is to be still first come, first serve.
whoever makes it in the lottery, I guess it's not first come, first
What-
serve.
true.
Okay, and if you didn't get in first.
Right.
Do we know how many kids wanted Zero Bell that didn't get it this year? Is it a large number?
I don't know that offhand.
Okay, I'm just curious.
I'd be curious to see those numbers.
Sure.
I mean, is it like hundreds?
The other thing I would say is, and as Keith alluded to it before, we're doing a lot at K-6, obviously, and so this is going to be, that's sort of, we had to get the foundation going, as it
Sure.
were.
Completely
And so we've already talked about the conversations we're having now around K-6. Those conversations are going to shift pretty quick, and have already started 7-12. So a lot of things on our radar.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Thank you.
Steve.
Thank you.
Yep.
These are great additions. It's nice to see.
Yes, absolutely.
Just getting started.
All right. We are approaching our opportunity for public comment. If you would like to address the board, you may do so. We have one person who's signed in. So first we have Linda Nix.
Good evening, board members, Superintendent Miller and Mrs. Logan. My name is Linda Nix, 4243 Milliken Road, Liberty Township. Couple questions. One, Mr. Miller, we've been trying to connect. I was wanting to get some feedback on what time frame you think it's going to take to get feedback from your new diversity outreach and inclusion committee before you, and then do you have a time frame on getting feedback and what's your next plan with that? And I was curious to see, I know in November you were asked to reach out to your superintendent or your administrators, et cetera. And so that was my other thing, was what feedback have you gotten from them as far as what they need for training and help in the buildings themselves? If you've gotten a large amount of feedback, because I personally emailed everybody in every building, I think, that had any administrative things to ask them to respond to you. So I was hoping you got a decent response back. And the other one is has the board done any consideration on when you would be looking to reconsider or look at, is anybody actively working on any policy for transgender students right now? Thank you.
Thank you. All right. If there's anyone else who would like to address the board, they may do so at this time.
Sorry, I'm kind of new to this.
So please state your name and address, and then you have 3 minutes.
Okay. My name is Emily Gruber. My address is 8509 Tennyson Court in Westchester. So I'm here with some of my neighbors and here regarding the rezoning. And we all completely understand the need, and I think we were a little shocked at that our neighborhood was impacted. But we just kind of have a couple of questions regarding if there'll be any changes to the alternate building policy for next year. A lot of us have established daycare that impacts siblings. So having to figure all that out before the fall is important to us. And that's pretty much it. Just kind of any additional changes that would impact, how we can plan for next year.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else who would like to address the board at this time? We take all the questions and then we answer them at once. So if you're wondering what I'm doing, that's what I'm doing. So I'm not ignoring everyone.
I am Josephine Catadella from 6093 Pinter Court, also rezoned. And we're just kind of curious when the transportation information is going to come out, because impacting how much time my son will be on the bus is kind of concerning, and how much visual aid there is on the bus. Are there cameras? Are there things like that? Because we're going from like maybe a 20-minute drive to now a 40-minute drive. That is a huge concern of ours. And I just like to know what the route is, what that looks like. And we've had a lot of transportation issues in the past. So I'm just trying to alleviate his anxiety about that. So that would be one of the things that how does that roll out? I have no idea. So that's great. All right, thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else who would like to address the board at this time? All right. Seeing no one, I'm actually going to pass some of these on to you. As far as policy, Linda, and the board, I'll speak for myself. I think at this point the policy, we're holding off and waiting on feedback from the new diversity Lodi team, and so then I will pass it on to Matt as far as his time frame.
Sure. So to answer your question, there's no hard deadline for that. I mean, date, it's not like April 6th or anything like that. What we've been doing since the last meeting is champions have met twice. We actually also sent Aisha Moore, who works in our diversity department, for training. We also brought that trainer down here, Michael Douglas from Diversity Initiatives, and he's been training with her, with Angie Brown, with staff. We are talking now about who a third person for that department should be, and that person would help us with several things, but one of those things would be the transgender issues, compliance issues. We're working on what do we do now in each building, and that kind of goes back to your issue about what do administrators need, what do teachers need, and so we're working on that now. What's our practice, and what should we be doing is probably two different things, and so we're looking at that right now, and that's a daily occurrence of people working on these things. We also are getting in touch we're scheduling Dr. Conrad from Children's Hospital to do some training for us as well, but that's a little bit of email, phone tag type things, and that would be for staff. I also will tell you that it fits under diversity only in terms of that it's also inclusion and outreach, but one of our big initiatives for next year will be social emotional health of all kids. And so we're working with a group called Grant Us Hope. That's one of the institutions that we're working with. And then I know I'm forgetting a lot, but we also are having another social emotional community conversation before the end of the year, where I think certainly the transgender community has a piece of that as well. Those are just sort of my initial, here's what's going on right now.
Okay, and alternative building policy change?
Same. It's still the same. In fact, you're just one board meeting too early because Mr. No, don't be sorry. I'm just letting you know. But there's not going to be any changes in terms of what that looks like. But Mr. Vogelman's going to speak to it at our next meeting. I will tell you too that we are very glad that you came here and asked these questions. So when I say this, it's not that I don't want you to ask, but you can always just shoot us an email too, and we can work through that. You don't have to wait to come here for that too. So we're trying to get the word out about transportation and about alternative school of choice forms as soon as we can. So we know that, and you're not the only ones that have asked us. And I mean, I had one come in today, and I just dished it off to Mr. Passarge, and he took care of it for us. So.
And the time frame on transportation information?
I don't know the answer to that.
I'm looking at Mr. Passarge.
He's hiding in the little room.
We'll go into August, so you won't know, so we'll finish in July and August, that's what I know for sure. Just to let you know, too, daycares, we are looking at our daycare policy where they transport to. So right now, our policy is we want to transport to those daycares that are in those zones. So we know that's a big change for families, so we're looking at that to include beyond just the zones that they reside in. So we are looking at that as well.
Chris, didn't you say too that some of the daycares are changing? I mean, they're working.
Yeah, so we're working with the daycare and our transportation to see if we can expand our services and keep it efficient as possible as well. So we are looking at those issues as well.
The man behind the curtain.
He always has good answers, though, when he comes out of the little room.
back
He's always
there.
got a good answer, so.
Like we're not going to see him back there.
All right.
It's like the groundhog when he comes around the corner.
So, all right. With that, we'll move to Board Policy Committee. We have Brad.
We do, and we have our first meeting set up in a few weeks. Mr. Vogelman sent that information out. You're giving me a
March 2nd.
March 2nd. There's a peace sign. What's going on there? Looking at you. March 2nd, yes, we have our first meal update meeting, and then we have regular committee meetings scheduled from there on out. So looking forward to getting that started.
All right. And Community Engagement Committee?
We actually had our first meeting today. We talked about going forward with community conversations and what we want to see, and talked about, as Matt mentioned, the social and emotional piece is a big one in everywhere. So we would like to get more stakeholders at the table to talk about that issue. So we will try to go forward with that. And if there's any suggestions you have for community conversations, let us know.
The only other thing I would add too, if I can, is we're meeting with Hopewell.
Oh, that's right, I'm sorry, Hopewell Community Conversation, Wednesday at 9, and then we have 2 special ed, February 27th staff, March 8th parents, and then we're having a community conversation with a group we've not done in the past, which is people that reside in Lakota but homeschool their children. So that's what we have on the books for the next
March 19th at 6:30.
March 19th.
Do you get a lot of requests from different people coming to you asking for those, or do you seek them out? What's the...
Some of them.
Yes.
Yep.
Yes, it's some of both. It has been, yeah.
That's great. I mean, I think that speaks to the health of having those conversations, that people are actively seeking them out,
Right.
which is great.
Right.
And
And so we were talking in our meeting today, it's like we want to do a balance because we've had, the internal stakeholders, but we want to be able to continue to reach out. And our big challenge is when we do have 70% without kids in the district, is how do we continue to reach out to those families and those residents, because they often tend not to engage with us as much. And so we want to continue to try to reach out to those
To have the
groups.
opportunity for them to come in.
So, any ideas or thoughts of how we can reach out to more groups, we're certainly open to, and we'd love to do that. So,
Also have a coffee chat Wednesday at 1 at Einstein. Bagels this week.
so
Do you do any of those in the evening?
We're going to.
You're going
I
to
think the next one is, isn't it?
I think
I think
so.
the next one,
is.
yeah, the next one I think is in the evening.
And we'll put it out through our usual communication.
I'll be at that one.
All right. Butler Tech, Linda.
Butler Tech will meet next week.
All right. Legislative.
Brad and I will be meeting on Thursday. Jenny and Matt, do you want to talk about anything you have going on?
I don't have anything really new. I have a legislative meeting coming up next week. I will tell you on sort of the national platform, there's a rally that I'll be a part of on Friday with AASA in terms of just public education in general at the federal level. But I'll be glad to bring something back at our next meeting.
Continue the work on the school funding work group, task force, whatever you want to call it, on a state level. That next full committee meeting is this Thursday in Columbus, and we had our subcommittee meeting last week. So that work is continuing. Just so you know, the subcommittee that is working on the base cost, they have arrived at what they believe will be their recommendation, which will be an inputs-based approach to funding, which is a different way of looking at things. So I will get you more information on that as it becomes available. But we are basically working on an outputs-based model right now, and the committee will be recommending changing that up. So that's what I have at this moment in time. The work continues. We have it through June to finish this up, and it's moving fast. So.
And I think your group's getting traction too, because sometimes when ODE and other groups have gone through these efforts, it's been kind of sideline work and nothing really came of it, but it's starting to get tractions in different circles. So I'm optimistic.
Yes, cautiously optimistic.
Right. It feels
You say
different.
that very
It feels
quietly.
different
It
this time.
does feel different.
It feels different this time, and I
Yeah.
mean that in a positive way.
And I appreciate you saying that, because I think it feels different, but I'm at the table,
Right.
and so I'm thinking, does it feel different because I'm here? But
Right.
if you
I'm hearing
say
it.
that, good.
We're also continuing to monitor Senate Bill 216, sponsored by Senator Huffman, and that's the education deregulation bill. And he actually has sought input from a lot of school district superintendents in his part of the state, and that's good to see. We think that'll have some positive changes for us, perhaps making it a little more accessible toward innovation and where we're hoping to go. So I attended, as you all know, 2 conferences in Washington this past week. The first was the Equity Symposium, and that was exactly what it sounds like, equity in education. And the other was the Advocacy Institute, which is part of the Federal Relations Network that I do for Congressional District 8, and had an opportunity to visit with Senators Portman and Brown and Congressman Davidson. And the focus of all of those conversations was pretty much determined by the Ohio delegation based on the OSBA legislative platform, but narrowed down tremendously because it's pages and pages. And the focus of the conversations were reauthorization of the Perkins Act for career tech, and that has passed out of the House, but it's kind of stopped at this point in the Senate, so we encourage that to be reauthorized. We're continuing to get funded, but it hasn't been reauthorized. Supports for Title I and Title II funding and IDEA funding, which is our special ed funding. And one of the pieces that I had more of an in-depth conversation with Congressman Davidson on this was the intention of ESSA, particularly around not just compliance, but more about the quality of education, and to make sure that as it is implemented and determined at the state how it's going to be implemented, that it is, that's not a bottleneck for those things to happen, and that local control and quality assurance are as important as compliance is. And it was intended to loosen the reins a bit, so we want to make sure that it continues all the way down to the ground level. So had a good conversation about that. I brought back a lot of information, and I'm going to ask for that to be posted to board docs rather than give you all 3-ring binders to read. And also had an opportunity to attend an interested party meeting on a bill for report card changes, which is in the very early stages. There'll be a preliminary draft also posted to board docs on that. It's over 200 pages, so a lot of reading. And there'll be an opportunity for testimony in that in the next several months. So that's where we're at this point. Lots going on, a lot of different activity, I would say, across several areas in education.
I actually had one other quick thing just of note, and I think it fits under here. But with ECOT closing, and there's been a lot of discussion about that. What does that look like for those students? So we have 41, we now have 41 students that were ECOT students that live in our district. When I say we have, that's just, they live in Lakota School District. Of those 41, I believe we're up to 5 now who have enrolled back into Lakota. And I got 2 calls from the state superintendent's office the past week asking how many have enrolled. And so we've been telling them, and I think they're just trying to capture where those kids are at, where they're going. I think maybe that speaks to the problems of ECOT, of how many did they really have, but we'll see.
So we don't know about the other 36?
Correct. So that's something the state is communicating internally about, and will push things out to us too. So that's another thing that we're watching
That's
legislatively.
concerning, yeah.
Absolutely.
That's it.
I don't know if this will come under legislative. It could be a community thing. One of the things that I noticed during the campaign season was that there was somewhat of a gap in kind of understanding some of the highlighted things that the district is running after and doing when it came to just maybe the trustees or people in the community, whether it be Liberty or Westchester, not pinpointing one or the other. One of the things that I have thought about doing, and I would just love feedback, or if other people are interested, I would love to start, not attending all of them because I don't have much time, but going to a trustee meeting here and there in Westchester, because that's where I live, and just possibly getting just some highlighted stuff from you all to give, and just to use my 3 minutes just talking about things that are happening in the district. It could either go that way, or we could work with the trustees and say, hey, is there an opportunity, just like the auditor, I think it was the auditor's office that came, and just kind of give kind of a state of, hey, this is what's going on. What I like about that is that we get the opportunity to showcase the things that are happening. They're working in their silo, which they're doing great things within the townships, but they don't necessarily come over to this side, the education side. And what I want to do is be able to go to them and just talk about some of the amazing things that are happening. Sorry, I keep turning my back to you.
I know. I'm used to it.
I don't need to do that. But just highlight some of the things that are going on in the district occasionally at those trustee meetings. I'm assuming I wouldn't be welcome in Liberty Township since I don't live there, but I'm assuming other people on this board live in Liberty Township. So they might want to help out with that. But any feedback on that? I mean, I'm planning on doing it. I just didn't know if there was feedback or interest doing that along with me. I don't want a burden to be on you all, but I would definitely need you to provide me with that stuff. That
Highlights.
Would be a highlight.
Be glad to.
It's kind of a
Yeah, I think it's a good idea.
Well, we're talking about setting up another roundtable with both the townships, which we've done in the past.
Okay.
That might be a really good time to introduce that, and also issue the invitation back the other direction and say,
Absolutely.
please come and speak at our board meetings, and set some dates with them to actually do that.
I think that would be great.
Yeah. Mhm.
Yeah, I would love to see our trustees and just people from the township coming here and presenting what's happening on their side of the table. I think that's great. So, yeah. Is that round table, just because I'm new and I don't know anything about that, how does that operate? What does that look like? Is that like, do we all attend that? Like,
It will be all board members from all 3 boards,
okay.
and our top staff.
So the way that we handled it last time is we all attended, and so all 3 noticed it as our own meeting.
Mhm.
So we took attendance and,
Oh, wait, right.
and we had it actually at Liberty Township
Mhm.
offices and did it there.
Do you remember when the last time was?
It was
Rob
December.
Vogelman, I'm looking
it was,
at you.
It was December of 16.
December of 16.
Mhm.
So it's been a while.
So it's well past time to do it
Right.
again. And it's proactive. It's not waiting until there are issues to address. It's a proactive, just a straightforward conversation. So
Yeah.
we all have the concern of a strong and healthy community at heart. So
Right.
I think it's a good conversation.
Great.
All right. Diversity Committee, I think
think I hit 'em.
Matt already highlighted many
Yep.
of the things that we were planning on talking about at that portion. So we move to Treasurer's recommendations. Do I have a motion for approval of board meeting minutes?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Hearing none. Jenny, will you please call the roll?
Mrs. O'Connor,
Yes.
Mr. Lovell,
Yes.
Mrs. Casper,
Yes.
Mrs. Schaefer.
Yes.
Thank you.
All right, superintendent's recommendations, we'll do A through E. Do I have a motion for approval?
I'll motion.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Any discussion?
I had a question, Matt, on the
Sure.
Focus 3
Yes.
agreement. Is there an estimate on the cost?
think it's included.
It's not on there unless I totally missed it.
I believe it's 75,000.
It's a 3-year
I
agreement.
did miss it. That's what I get for
90,000.
pulling it up on my phone. Okay.
So Focus 3 is a 3-year commitment with Tim
Tot-
Pike, who does the
E plus R equals O.
R, which is event plus
So that's the
response
cost for
equals to
3 years or
outcome.
per year?
He does the training with Ohio State
Okay.
University as well as many other businesses and organizations. He also, another piece of their training is the R factor disciplines, which they talk about that you press pause, get your mind right, step up, adjust and adapt, make a difference.
I only
and
got
build
one
skill.
page on my phone.
So he will be working not only with our administrators, he'll be working with our
Thank you.
staff as well as our students. This is a 3-year arrangement that he will be, he's worked with different school districts, but again, with many corporations throughout the U.S. So, as well as sports organizations and a variety of different groups. So we've had the opportunity, he's done a couple trainings with the administration, the board. The old board has been invited, these two have not, but we had the opportunity to attend, and it was very well received, although you got to attend it.
We did get to-
the school board conference.
Yeah, we
So-
did get to hear him, or I got to hear him speak at the school board.
She meant veteran board and not old board.
I was wondering who was going to correct
Really?
her on that. Yeah, we got to see him.
Really?
Yeah, he was
And I
very,
do like, too, that it's K-12. You know,
Yeah.
Mr. Vogelman's been running point on it, but it's pervasive in a lot of our schools. It'll be nice that it'll be Lakotaized and it'll be throughout.
yeah.
And it's very, again, during the community conversations, we've heard a lot about our community wants us to work on the whole child. And this is very much about you can't control an event and you can't control the outcome. What you can control is your response. And that's what this is all about, is controlling how you respond to what's happening around you. And it really is a very impressive model in my opinion.
Yeah.
We frequently use the phrase press pause
Yep.
in this office. Yep.
So, and again, many of our students can use that as well in their day-to-day life and in our buildings, is to press pause, think about what you're doing before you take your action. So I think it can really, I'm hopeful that it will have a very positive impact on our culture within our buildings with our students. So with that, Jenny, will you please call the roll?
Mrs. Casper,
Yes.
Mr. Lovell,
Yes.
Mrs. O'Connor,
Yes.
Mrs. Schaefer.
Yes. Closing comments? Kelly?
Ooh, I'm first. I get to go first. I never get to go first. And I have hardly anything to say. I'm missing my shot. Thank you, Keith, for the
This is only her
presentation on
third
the
meeting.
studies. It's always good to know where we're going and what we're doing. And of course, I love the spotlights. It is my favorite thing ever, because I do feel like that is happening all over the district. And we obviously cannot spotlight every single kid, but I love it. I love it. That's it.
Yeah, kudos to the team. I know there are quite a few of us at the East-West game on Friday, so just like the student spotlight, just the energy that those environments bring and seeing the community together, it's just contagious. It's amazing just to stand back and just see everybody, and I would just, it's just fun. Like on Twitter, I think I saw the students, I think Mr. Carter had taken a picture of the kids cleaning up the bleachers and just, it's truly a community feel, and it was so much respect in that gym and just a great game. So just kudos to the principals, to the staff, the administration, just everybody that helps make those events happen and welcomes our community into the building and just encourages that.
And the kids really love it. I mean, I saw on Twitter some kid posted nothing better than the East-West game.
It's wonderful.
Linda?
Nothing to add.
Just, again, yeah, the student spotlight. And I think it was you, Brad, that said, and when people start talking about, or Julie, somebody said the youth, they're worried about the youth of today. I'm not worried about the youth of today.
Me neither.
The adults might be a little concerned, but.
Exactly. And I think that, we can learn something from their generosity and their hearts. They always amaze me. The other thing too, just want to shout out to the treasurer's office staff, not my staff, the treasurer's office staff, and everyone in this district that makes it work on a daily basis. There are a lot of people when you walk into buildings that help bring this award and make it possible. That's your secretary sitting in the buildings taking in, the fees, making sure, all the purchases that we do are done according to board policy. There's just a lot of people that go into making a big place like this work. And so I just want to say thank you to all those people. So that's it.
I have just a couple quick things. First of all, congratulations on this, but you're not making it a big enough a deal because I've seen what other districts do. Like Yost goes and does the thing, so it's nice that you do it here, but this is really a big deal in the arena of school finance, so congratulations to you for that. Back to your point, right, about the kids and how the spirit of where they're at, and especially when you talk about in terms of things that are going on, across the region, across the country. I was really touched by the girls' game, West and Mason, the other day.
That was so touching.
When the girls from both teams made a W and made an M, depending on where you look at it, for West and Mason, and
That was awesome.
just the unity there, where everyone's all fired up to wanting to beat the other team, but then the girls do this, and it's like, oh, okay. But it was really, really good to see. And then I just real quick want to give a shout out to Todd Wesley and his team because they are heading up to E-Tech tomorrow in Columbus, and with everything we have going on with the one-to-one rollout and device and all of that, it's key that they are boots on the ground there, so I'm excited about the team going up. So that's it.
And you're also speaking at
I'm going
the
there.
conference.
Got 2 presentations tomorrow early, so but looking forward to us branching out.
So, and kudos to you on your snow day presentation and making that.
That was Leah, but yeah,
So,
thanks.
with you as well. So
That was fun.
That was fun and also to Chris Passarge for allowing our Spark students to ride along with him as he did his snow day report. To have our students out at, wasn't it?
They said they had to get up at 2:30.
3:57, I think, was when their report started on their snow day report of how that decision is made. But we had our Spark kids out. So to get our Spark kids out on a snow day at 3:57.
And they had parent permission,
And they
by
had
the way. I
parent
just want
permission,
to point that
absolutely.
out.
They were out there in the parking
Way
lot.
to sneak
with their
that in.
cameras rolling. That was very impressive.
And spent the rest of the day editing it. I mean,
Yes.
Yeah.
they didn't sleep in or watch a movie or
Yes,
play video games.
I was like, that's pretty impressive. They've been hoping so much for a snow day, but to still get them out of bed at 3:30 in the morning. And again, kudos to Jenny. We're so thankful for your team, not your team, the team,
That's
in
right.
the treasurer's office, and all that work that goes on there to be good stewards of our taxpayers' dollars. So we're very thankful. And with that, do I have a motion to adjourn into executive session for the purposes of preparing for negotiations?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Then will you please call the roll?
Mrs. O'Connor,
Yes.
Mrs. Casper,
Yes.
Mr. Lovell,
Yes.
and Mrs. Schaefer.
Yes. And we do not plan to take any action when we come out of executive session.